Welcome, friends, to the Someone Gets Me podcast. I am your host, Dianne A, and I am so delighted that you're here. This podcast was created because I believe there is a visionary leader inside each one of us who is waiting to be seen. In each episode of Someone Gets Me, you will hear useful tips from successful visionaries who will share their stories about how being seen has allowed them to take their vision out into the world with action. Beyond the hit song, an honest conversation with Adam Reifsnyder. I hope I got it right.
You got it.
Hi, everybody. It's Dianne here at Someone Gets Me, and I have a really cool guest for you today that is just amazing and inspiring. In fact, I'm getting goosebumps right now, even thinking about this conversation. So get your tea, your coffee, and get all ready for this really great conversation with somebody who has lived all dimensions of life in cool ways and is a creative genius on top of it all. So all of Adam's information, his links, his long bio, he's done so many cool things, are all in the show notes for you to peruse and click on and follow him and hunt him down. Now, I found Adam, and I don't usually say this out loud, but I found him on TikTok. I use TikTok to watch puppy videos to release the stress from my ADHD brain. And that's what I do. And then I was watching puppy videos, and there was a cat video, and that was kind of cool. I like cats. And then there was this guy, Adam, but I didn't know him then. And his voice was just beautiful. And I'm like, who is this? And I listened, and then I listened to it again. And then, of course, because I liked it, kept showing up more and more. And I thought, I'm inviting him on the show because there's a presence about him that has my attention. And I know he'll have your attention too. And I think it's because he is a creative person that is real. So that's how it happened. So we've gotten to know each other a little bit over time, and I have some cool questions in my little mind, and I hope Adam's going to tell us some really cool stories. So Adam, welcome to the Someone Gets Me podcast, and welcome to this great afternoon conversation we're going to have. And I'm so delighted that you said yes.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Dianne. I'm really excited for this too.
This will be really fun. And so I want to start off here. I usually start off with asking people to tell me about themselves, but I have a different question for you.
Sure.
I would love to know, when you think about you and your relationship with music, like, did music pick you or did you pick music? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, I love that question. I think music picked me, and I think it showed up really early. I can't really remember when I started loving music, but I remember some kind of key moments where I was like, oh, this is really something special. And honestly, one of the first things I remember is, I think it was like 1992. I was 7 years old, and The Lion King came out, and I got the Lion King soundtrack, I think on cassette. So I'm definitely dating myself there. And I was introduced to Elton John's music through that, because there was the versions from the movie, and then there were also Elton John's versions. And then my mom and dad had a bunch of Elton John CDs and tapes, and I kind of got into him, and it kind of sent me down a path of discovering the Beatles and Michael Jackson and a lot of, classic musicians. And I took up violin in the 4th grade, and I took up guitar in high school, and just kind of kept building on that. But I think I always had a love of it, or at least from very early on in my life.
Oh, that's really cool. I played violin in 3rd grade, I think it was, or something. I love it.
Yeah, I started in 4th and stuck with it for a long time. I love stringed instruments. I think they have such a beauty to them. I don't really play the violin much anymore, but I still have so much respect and love for orchestral instruments.
Oh, my mother was a concert pianist. We had a Mason Hamlin piano in our house that had ivory keys, and every night when I was very young, we would go to bed to her playing a classical piece of some kind, usually Brahms or Mozart or something. And it was just, I look back on that and think, what a gift.
That's cool. My mom's a pianist as well. She would play a little bit more pop stuff or musical stuff. Like, she's really into the Wicked soundtrack, and she'll play like Josh Groban and things like that. So a little bit of a similar experience there.
Yeah, that's really it. I think it, I keep reading the research and the neuroscience that music really helps our brain develop more, like children sing before they speak. And that there's a resonance that is healing on levels that we don't even have words for. So I'm wondering if you've had any of those kinds of experiences through either playing or listening to music where it has just categorically changed your life or changed a situation for you.
I am sure that it has. I think probably the first place my mind goes is that music helps me process really heavy things. And I, like anyone else, have been through some heavy stuff and challenging stuff. And when I can write music about it and then record it and perform it, it makes it feel better. And there's been a few, I mean, I'm happy to go into specific times, but like there's two big moments where that was true. And one was coming out of a marriage. I was married and got divorced, and processing that failed relationship and that challenging relationship was so many complex emotions layered on top of each other: grief, shame, sadness, relief, because the relationship didn't feel healthy. Like there was just so much to it. And I wrote multiple songs coming out of that really helped me deal with it. I was also going to therapy and talk and dealing with it in many ways, but the music helped too. And I got some songs that I still love and I'm still very proud of out of that time. And it kind of helps me reflect on that time as well, even though it's been many years at this point. And another key period was in 2019. My partner, Lauren, and I were pregnant, and we lost our pregnancy at 20 weeks. So halfway through the pregnancy. And 2 weeks later, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer. And I'm starting to tear up now just thinking about that time, but I feel like that year was probably the hardest of my life because we were grieving and I wasn't even sure if I was going to live, and let alone be able to get pregnant again and, have the life that we were starting to create for ourselves. And so we ended up writing a lot of music. My partner, Lauren, is a singer, and we wrote a lot of music as the duo, the Fare-Duels. And that was really helpful in processing a lot of that time. And I also composed a fingerstyle piece in the week right after losing our pregnancy, which we referred to as Teensy, because we didn't know the sex of the baby. So we just had a nickname, Teensy. And I composed a song called Teensy's Tune, and it just felt like it flowed out of me. And there are just those times where the music comes out and it is so helpful as an outlet. And sometimes I don't even understand where it comes from or feel like I'm totally in control of it. But some of my favorite music I've ever done has come out of those really challenging times.
Wow. And it's so healing. And so I bet you have heard healing stories from your listeners too.
Absolutely. Yes. It's interesting. Sometimes people will respond to a song and feel really moved by it without knowing the story behind it, but they can feel that there is a story behind it.
Yes.
And then if they ask me, I tell them. And sometimes that really makes it feel even more powerful to them. So I've certainly had people reach out and let me know that a song really resonates with them or makes them feel something or help them heal or get through a time. And that's a really amazing sort of side effect. Like it's not why I write, but then to have that come back to me and to have the songs mean something to somebody else is something really, really special that I don't take for granted at all.
Right. And you think so many people that I've run into are like, well, I can't tell them talking about, I can't tell the musician they did that. And of course I work with so many different musicians and I'm like, well, yes, you can. They're people too. And And they're most of the time, the people that I know are telling stories like you are that have depth and meaning, even beyond what they even can understand as it's coming through them. Like, it's like one thing that Kenny Loggins told me. And he said, I write from my heart. And then sometimes it's 6 months or a year later until I really connect with the whole meaning of the song.
Absolutely.
And I think that speaks to the artistry and then what I call the genius of letting that flow happen. And so I always tell listeners, I'm telling all of you who are listening right now, that Adam, if one of his songs moves you, tell him.
Yes, I agree. I love it when people tell me.
Right. Well, seriously, because the way I look at it, and you could tell me if you see it differently, but I kind of see it as if I'm listening to something that you're doing and it moves me and I do not say anything, whether it's a comment or whatever, if I say nothing and I keep it to myself, then you lose out on the blessing of the compliment or the understanding or the connection. And so do I. And that's not what music's for. Music is for that connection that's deeper than the words. That's why the music itself is so powerful. So, tell the musicians who really love that you love their stuff.
I wholeheartedly agree. I don't think people realize how fulfilling it can be to hear that. We hope that happens, or at least I'm speaking for myself. I hope that happens when I put music out. But a lot of what I get back is silence or, not a whole lot of feedback, sometimes rejection. So, actually a lot of rejection, and, hearing anything positive, especially if it holds meaning for somebody else, is something that I really covet and love to hear every time.
Yeah. I mean, I everything I've heard you do so far, I'm like, whoa, like I enjoy your work a great deal. And I'm like, I have to have more of that. It's like, it feeds my soul. And I think it's because on an emotional level, I can connect with it. Even though I don't even know the story. I don't have to know the story. I can feel it. That's my intuition. So I want to talk a little bit about success and how it has impacted you in your life. Because I think that there's like this veil around people who perform that gets misinterpreted by a lot of people, where you can't really see the person and there's really a person in there. And so have you ever had a time where success, whatever the outward success was looking like, because you've done a lot of successful things, felt different than your inside? Like your inside didn't feel the same as what was being shown on the outside.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I think I'm sort of going to answer this in a roundabout way, because I'm not sure I've felt exactly that, but I've definitely defined success a number of different ways during my music career, which at this point I've been writing my own music and performing it for about 25 years at this point. And I think when I was young, my dream was performing for big crowds and being, on a record label and touring all the time and doing more of the rock star life. And I never got that. I never made it to that point. I was part of a band that I left that did make it to that point. So a really sort of strange occurrence there. But the band Walk the Moon that I was in for a number of years ended up becoming famous on a song initially, and a Son, that I co-wrote, and then way bigger for Shut Up and Dance With Me, which came well after I was out of the band. So I never really got to taste that, but I also don't think I wanted it by the time we were starting to make some traction. And I left that band and moved to Cleveland in 2010, and I formed a band that was more what I wanted at that time. And it was a band called Honeybucket. And I was tired of electric instruments and drum sets and big heavy load ins and load outs and carrying instruments and worrying about microphones and we had done a couple acoustic shows as Walk the Moon, and I was like, I love this. I loved having multiple singers, harmony, acoustic instruments in intimate settings. And so I ended up forming this kind of bluegrassy trio. It was upright bass, mandolin, and me on acoustic guitar. And all three of us sang and did tons of harmony. And that was really like a success in a way, because I was like, this is more what I want to be doing. And even though it was starting over entirely and it was playing tiny rooms and shows and, just totally starting from scratch, it felt like a success. And that started to generate its own local success in Cleveland. And it did really well for a time. And now to me, success is really just being able to make music and not lose money, which is, I can't even say I'm there yet, but I've been doing a lot of things to make, especially this year, but laying a lot of foundation and groundwork in the last year or two to try to make music more of a sustainable thing for me, so that I'm not just pulling from my own savings to make the music, because I feel like I have to make the music. Like I'm not going to stop. And it's going back to your question of, did music choose me? I feel like, yes, absolutely. I can't stop. I won't stop. I can't stop. I'm going to keep doing it. And so the best thing I can do is try to just lean into that and find ways to continue to make it happen, with the way my life looks now.
Oh, that makes so much sense to me. Like, even if you had a temper tantrum, like, I'm not doing this anymore, it wouldn't work. You'd be doing it like right afterwards. It's like, just might as well surrender and go for it.
It wouldn't. Yeah. I actually remember one of the members of Honeybucket. We ended up breaking up in 2018, and he had left earlier than that. He had his first child and decided to leave the band, and really hasn't done music since, but is totally fine with that. And he's an amazing musician. And I just remember thinking when that happened, and then, even years later looking back at it, I'm like, that couldn't be me. I can't stop making it, can't stop playing it, can't stop writing it, can't stop thinking about it. And if I do, I start to just feel like I'm not fulfilled. My soul cup is draining, and the music fills it back up for me. I had to take a break for about almost 2 years, I think, when my twins were born. I have a boy and a girl twin. They were born in 2020 in the height of COVID. And I thought, yeah, I'll take a few months off from music and then get back to it. And life was just so hard for multiple years. And so I really ended up having to take about 2 years without doing much. And it almost killed me. Like it wrecked me. And obviously I was finding fulfillment and love and entering into this new beautiful chapter with my partner and my twins. But I feel like I need a space for both, and I think that was when it really drove the point home to me that, like, I can't stop making music.
Yeah, you can have an intermission for a couple years, but that's as far as it goes, right? So how do you balance children, work, music, your life, taking care of yourself along the way? Like how do you do that?
It's tough. I'm not really performing these days. So for me, part of that balance is not playing bar shows and gigs that often. It's much more focused on writing, recording, and then promoting that music, which I can do at my own pace, on my own time, from my house for the most part. So I'll play the occasional gig, and I've got one in Cleveland in August, but that's going to be my first gig in almost a year. And that's one of the ways. And I've always loved the recording process, probably the most of anything about the music anyway. So to me, if I can just keep writing and recording material and putting it out, and then getting that feedback from people that we're talking about, that is very fulfilling for me. And I can really do that at my own pace. So even as I was kind of coming out of that 2 year period when my twins were born, I was like, I'm going to start recording some stuff. And if it takes a long time, so be it. But as long as I'm gradually making some progress towards this, I will have to be satisfied with that. And I was for a while, you know. And so I think being able to record and just get into the recording studio for one day a month for that first year, getting back into it, was enough to kind of fill me back up and energize me and keep me going. At this point, my kids are 5.5, and I'm able to kind of carve out more time. A lot of what I do is early in the morning, like 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. I'm doing a lot of like music promotion or getting ready for my next thing or doing editing in my home studio here or whatever it is. But it's a lot of just kind of carving out space where I can, right, and making sure that I'm not missing anything with my kids or with work or anything like that.
So are your children interested in music?
Yes, they're very musical. They sing all the time. They want to listen to music regularly. We have a little toy called a Yodo, and it's kind of an analog music and story player. It's got cards, plastic cards that you stick in, and the card will have a full album or it'll have a story on it or whatever. And so they have this Yodo that they can carry around. It's digital, but it's not connected to the internet. It doesn't take voice commands or anything. It's kind of like a tape deck, you know? And so they each have albums that they love, and they'll take it around and listen to music and sing along, and they're getting into dance, and they'll dance to their albums that they have. And it's really exciting to see them get this as a passion. And my son even really likes, he's really into the Dungeons and Dragons movie score, the soundtrack that's all orchestral and instrumental. And so I'm like, I think he might be like a composer or something down the line, because he's like hearing the strings and hearing the vocals that are just doing nonsense syllables or some other language they made for the movie. And he's like fascinated by it. And he's only 5. So I'm excited about that.
Oh, that'll be fun to track and see what cool things call to his spirit. You know, that gives me goosebumps. That's very, very exciting.
Yeah. And we're going to get them in lessons soon too. Like my daughter wants to be in ukulele lessons. My son wants piano lessons. They both like to bang on drums and like chant and stuff. So we're going to do everything we can to foster that in them, because we love it.
I think that's great. All of you into music, and there's nobody in the family that's going, I'm out. You know? Yeah.
Well, it's also an interesting relationship that they have with it too, because they'll hear like a famous artist and ask if I know them, because they also hear my music, and they've met Nick Patrica from Walk the Moon, who's Uncle Nick to them, and seen him perform at a Guardians game in Cleveland. And like, they know that we know musicians and we are musicians. So I remember my son heard a Harry Styles song and he was like, is this one of your friends, Dad? I was like, no, not at all. But so they also sort of see that like people they know can make music too, which is probably helpful for them in thinking like, oh, this is a thing I can do too.
Right. Sure. You know, and in their mind, all of you musicians who perform on stage all know each other.
Right. Yeah.
Sure. Okay. But that's exciting for them. You know, I love it. I think that's really good. And it's neat that they have all these kind of like adult role model mentors in addition to you, you know, and they're still excited by it, you know, that it's not a one track thing, which is really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what gives you hope? Hope for the future, hope for life in general. What gives you hope?
That's a broad one. So not specific to music, just anything.
Yeah.
I think sometimes I get discouraged about the state of the world, but when I am able to focus on my little family and my community and the friends we have, the family we have, and like the fun that I can have with my kids and my partner. I think that makes me feel the most hope. We had a really interesting, it's an annual event that we have in my neighborhood called the Garden Walk, where people open up their gardens on one day in July, and people just walk around the neighborhood and ask, walk into their backyards and ask questions and talk about gardening, and you get to know your neighbors. And there are some really cool gardens in Cleveland too. In our neighborhood, people have like koi ponds back there and pagodas with, massive vines growing, creating this little shady nooks. And we participate in it too. We have a pretty cool garden in the back, and it's those kinds of things. And we host a book club in our house, and it's like those kinds of community things give me hope, because we're connecting with people that over, one thing, but getting to know them and getting to become friends with them. And just, I feel like my little world is where I see hope a lot.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful. And I think it is those things. And I always tell everybody connection is the correction. And I think bringing authentic connection together around like-minded kinds of things, I think that does give us hope, Yeah. And that's
Absolutely
neat. I would love to go up there for that garden walk. I love gardens.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Such a cool event. And it's like 9 or 10 different areas in Cleveland participate in it. And it's been going on for, I think, like 15 years or something. It's a pretty special thing. And yeah, I think the connection is the correction. I like that, because we started our book club in, I think, 2021. So COVID was still pretty isolating. Our kids were less than a year old, and we felt like very isolated and wanted to connect with people. And we were just kind of brainstorming how could we do this, and came up with the idea of doing a book club. And we've been going strong for like 5 years now. And I think it's just, it was, especially at that time, the perfect antidote for feeling so alone during COVID.
Yes. Oh, and I think it's great that you've continued it. Nobody was going, okay, COVID's over now, so back to what we were doing,
Right.
that connection and that bond has become so meaningful that it's continuing. And I think that speaks volumes.
Yeah.
So have you ever written a song that surprised you? Like it came out different than I thought it was gonna, or something, like you were like going, whoa, what happened here? Like that, the surprise.
Yeah, I think those are often my favorites. I think there are different ways that that's happened for me. I think sometimes it's where a song just kind of flows out quickly. Mm-hmm. Those are surprising, because a lot of times I spend a lot of time and multiple days working on a song. So anytime I get a song that just sort of comes to me in a bolt of lightning and it's done in an hour, that surprises me in a great way. And I'm like, this is great. I have a whole thing already. So I remember my song Sunday Morning, which is the first song off my album, was like that. It really just was a spark. And I hopped into this room and I just played around for 45 minutes, and I had, the whole song and a quick demo of it recorded. And that so rarely happens for me. I think Teensy's tune that I was mentioning, following the loss of our pregnancy, flowed out in a similar way. It wasn't an hour, but it was like a week. And it was just in this heavy period of grief. And I just would sit down with the acoustic guitar, and I don't know where it came from. It just flowed out, or I was borrowing a piece from the universe or something. And that's a nice surprise too, when it just feels like I don't even feel like I'm in control of this. I'm just sort of channeling it and trying to, figure out how to hold on to that piece of something.
It's almost like trying to keep up with it and do it justice.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think there's some songs that have been surprises in that they are maybe a different process than I usually do, or collaborations are often pleasant surprises. Like I just did a whole 6-song EP with my friend Gretchen Plus, and we wrote it over the course of 5 years, but every time we would get together, I feel like there was some surprise. We would find some nugget of an interesting chord progression or a melody that one of us had, and the other one would help figure out the rest of it. And those are really exciting surprises too, because sometimes there's songs where it's just like, I've taken this as far as I can go and I need somebody else to help me with it. And that's really fun to see. And it's also fun to see like where that song goes that's different from where it would have gone if I had just finished it all myself.
Yeah. But that power of that connection. That's really, really cool. So if somebody's listening to us right now and they're thinking, well, I'm X number of years old and I could never attain anything. I'm behind in my life. I should just give up. What would you say to them?
I would say I feel that way all the time and I just have to push through it. and so should you, because I'm almost 41. I'll be 41 in a couple weeks, and I've done a lot of things that I'm very proud of musically, but like I said, I've never really gotten to the point where music is paying the bills. I'm still kind of on the fence whether that's even my goal, but I know that I want to keep writing. I want to keep recording. I want to keep putting it out. And I feel like the age thing doesn't really matter. I think we're told that the music industry is a young person's game a lot, like that record labels want, kids in their teens so they can really like foster and control them or whatever. I just think it's a myth, and you can, as long as you can sing or write or play an instrument, you can make music, and you should, if it's something that you're driven to do. My solo album is called Better Late Than Never, and it is entirely that concept. It's, I'm wearing my shirt for it too. It's Better Late Than Never.
I like it.
And it's a motto that I've adopted, especially as I've gotten like in my late 30s when I started writing that or recording that album. It was, coming out of the period where my twins were born and I wasn't able to do music, and I was getting really discouraged and feeling like I hadn't accomplished enough musically or wasn't able to make much music. And then I started reminding myself, like, better late than never. I might as well just do it. And even if I wish I had done it 5 years prior, or I wish I was further along, there's no reason not to just make it happen now. And I really kind of took that to heart, and it kind of lit a new spark in me. And I think I constantly am reminding myself of that. I am constantly saying, better late than never. I'm just going to do it. So I kind of live my life that way now.
Oh, that's cool. And so we have a link for that album in the show notes. And so I suggest you go listen to it. I'm going to go listen to it. See, when I learned some of the more stories, I'm like, well, I want to hear that. I want to hear that story. I want to know that. Hold on a second. I love the stories behind what emerges. I find that, and I think a lot of gifted and neurodivergent type people, those of us with ADHD, we like that. We like the depthness and the richness of the story and of the product, like what's emerging. Because I kind of imagine some of the music as like almost like a fountain, and it's just emerging and it just starts showing up into the world, and then, different pressure and different things. And then pretty soon there's this beautiful creation that started with that little seed of trying to emerge, that little fire in your heart, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love telling those stories too. I know some artists like a degree of secrecy, or they like people to figure out what the meaning is for the song for themselves. And I like that too. But I also like to share the story for those people who want to hear it. And I've actually been working back through my whole album, going track by track and talking about the meaning behind each song. I'm I'm done with 4 songs and I've got 10 more to go. But I'm just sharing and reflecting on them, now almost 2 years after starting to put them out, and talking about the meaning and how I wrote them and what it was like recording them in the studio, and how it kind of took the shape that it ended up having on the album. And I love that social media doesn't always like to push those posts as much.
Right.
But the people who follow me and are enjoying the music, I think there's been a number of people who have really appreciated knowing those stories behind them, and it is encouraging me to do more of that. So, which is great because I love to talk about it.
Right. And because I've heard one of the stories, and I didn't even know you were doing that. And all of a sudden there you pop up and you start telling the story. And I literally had to turn off everything that I was doing, because I'm like, hold it, everybody. I have to hear the story. And I'm like, wow, I don't normally do that. I was looking for puppies. It's like, this is an interesting, like, way my brain, like, locked in. Like, I want to hear the story. And then my dog bothered me and somebody came to the door, and I'm like, everybody has to stop. I have to hear the whole story. And I kept pausing it so I could hear the whole story, which isn't something I normally do. So I'm like, and so I was thinking about it after I did that. I'm like, Adam's like a really good storyteller and a really good songwriter and a really good musician. And they are all they're different pieces of the same really cool mosaic, I think. But the way you deliver the spoken story is, to me, as powerful as some of the music I've heard. So it's just really great. And I'm glad you're doing that. So I'm going to keep listening to them, of course.
Great. I'm glad it captured your attention. I looking for puppies, and you got an 8-minute backstory on a song of mine. So
yeah. And there was, it's like I was literally, that's the only thing I go on there for. I mean, my team puts my things on TikTok, and sometimes I'll watch other things, but mostly it's to decompress my brain and make me laugh for a minute and then get off and go do something else, like only a minute or two here and there. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I'm watching this.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to save it and get back to it. And I mean, I could figure it out, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to listen to it right now.
Yeah.
I don't have delayed gratification very well,
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you stuck around, and I'm going to keep doing those. And I've actually started, because of what you're saying, like, social media is so fleeting. So I'm starting to put those up on my Patreon as well, so that once I get through the whole album, somebody could go through and listen to the story behind the music for all 14 tracks, and then listen to the album. And hopefully it adds, significant depth or more understanding or more emotion to what they've heard, in the music too. And I've heard from a few people that has been, that they've gone and listened to the song again after I talk about it, and that they hear new things or experience it in a different way. And that's really exciting for me too.
Yes. And I think you telling the story, not writing the script, and someone else telling the story makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely.
Just like when I listen to an audiobook, if it's read by the author, I will listen to it. If it's read by an actor, I probably won't.
Yeah. I love it when, as long as the person who wrote it is a good orator.
Yes.
Sometimes they're not, but when they are, and it's, it's the author doing it, I agree. It's like, it's more powerful and really interesting to listen to.
Yeah. I just love it. Oh my God. I have so many things I'm thinking about. My poor brain's going. So, we're getting near the end of the show, and I don't want to hold you up because you've already given me so much of your valuable time. Is there anything that you want to share with all of our listeners and the people who are tuning in? And remember, you can go to the show notes, and you can follow Adam. He gave us all his links and his real bio, and you will be even more impressed by this man. So is there anything you want to leave everybody with before I ask you my closing questions?
Man, I'm bad with very broad questions. I like more specific, but I guess if I could say one thing, I think whether it's me or another independent artist, I think it's very challenging for musicians to do what I'm trying to do, which is become financially sustainable and be able to make music. So anything you can do to support local or independent musicians that you find online, every comment, repost, sign up for their email list, support them on Patreon, follow them on different social medias, like all of that stuff helps. And I think going back to what you were mentioning earlier, Dianne, if a musician made a song or a band made a song that spoke to you, let them know. Shoot them a message. Go to one of their shows and tell them afterwards. That goes so far in, making us, maybe I'll speak for myself. For me, that really helps keep me going. It energizes me and gives me more drive to keep making music and keep putting it out there in what's a pretty tricky landscape these days.
Yes, it's very tricky. I work with a lot of people who have been musicians for, 40 and 50 years, and they talk about the changes over time and everything, and that it's getting trickier and trickier. And I really believe in supporting the people that we say we like. Like, that's just how I see it. And I think it's true too for businesses, any kind of small business, people who are entrepreneurs are coming and putting their heart out. Like when you listen to a song, or when I listen to a song from a musician, or I read poetry, or I read a book, or I'm connecting with that person and they're putting their soul out there. And it's, to me, it's very sacred and intimate in that way. Like, it deserves a level of reverence. And if it's not something that's my taste, which I run into that a lot, even though I have a pretty eclectic taste, so it's kind of hard, but there are things that I'm like, well, I don't know. That person is still giving their heart and soul. And so it deserves the reverence of that, even if I don't like it. I don't have to go and lie and say I like it or get more or whatever, but I can go, wow, that person invested time, effort, money, energy to be vulnerable on that level, whether they even know it or not sometimes. And so it deserves respect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely feel that way too. There's musicians I come across where I'm like, this isn't really a genre that I'm into or a style that I'm into, but I can see that they're working hard and they're following their passion. And I find little ways that I can support that too. And I love to do that for other musicians.
Yeah, I think that's really important, that we all step up and support each other in all kinds of ways that are meaningful, and to realize that the people we're looking at on the stage or reading their book or whatever it is, that it means something, like that you're a human being and it matters that somebody tells you that they like your things. Like, it's not, you're not off limits, I guess is the best way to put it.
Yeah. And me personally, I'm definitely not off limits. Like, I try to respond to every message I get, every email response I get. I'm out there trying to connect with people and not just, I hope you hear the music, but also I've met some really cool people, yourself included.
Yeah.
Just being out there and starting conversations on TikTok. So
there have been times where I listen to one of your songs and then I hit like, and it's not even seconds later that I get the notification that you liked my like. I'm like, is he like always on?
Maybe a little too much, but yeah, I'm on there a lot.
I'm like, my word, what is this? This is great. And then it makes me laugh. Then I smile. I'm like, this is like really fun. So I have a couple final questions for you that are just kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I think that, I know I've gotten a lot out of this show, out of this interview and this time with you, talking to you. I could talk to you forever.
Yeah. I could do this for 2 or 3 hours.
I know we'll have to do another show.
Sure.
There's nothing stopping us. Anyway. So I know that you've traveled a lot around the world and you've done all these different cool things. What's the most memorable food you've ever eaten?
Ooh. My mind jumps to when I went to perform a few shows with Walk the Moon in London. I got Indian food in London and it was exceptional. I remember just being blown away by it. Great Indian food in London. Trying to think. I've definitely trying to think if there's anything else that stands out. That one jumped to my mind right away. Oh my gosh. I almost forgot. Hong Kong is probably the best food city I've ever been to. I remember getting Greek food that was amazing, Chinese food that was amazing, Japanese food that was amazing, Italian food. And it was all just a few blocks from where I was staying in Hong Kong. I just feel like so many expats from different countries end up there and open little restaurants. And there was so much good food in that city. I can't believe I almost forgot it.
Wow, that's really great. You're the second person who's mentioned the Indian food in London.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm like, that's like really cool. I have to go to London now and have Indian food.
Yeah.
So, and the second question is that, to me, it's probably my favorite question to ask everybody, is if we were going to put a billboard up that the whole world was going to see with a message from you personally on it, what would that billboard say?
My mind immediately goes to better late than never. Something, because I really do live my life by it. I think it's a good motto. And I encourage other people, if there's something that you want to do and you've been putting it off, or are telling yourself, it's not going to work, or whatever it is, I think better late than never really helps me. And I hope it helps other people. Just do the thing and see what happens.
Just do it. Better late than never. I love that. I was hoping you would say something like that. Yeah, it's like perfect, right? It's the perfect thing. And so I want to thank you so much for spending your time with me today and having this conversation. We are going to have to do this again because I have like all these other things in my mind.
Yeah, I am down whenever. I would love to do it again. And I really appreciate you having me on the show. I'm glad that whatever my TikTok post was that day spoke to you. And I'm so glad you messaged me.
Well, it was the post you did that, it was just authentic. And you were saying, asking people to support you, like support what your work or something. I don't remember all of it. And I thought, I can ask him to be on my show because I really like what I've already seen. I could do that. That's something I can do. And I already knew that you would be really great for everybody who listens to the show. So that part, I kind of had that sense. And then when I started talking to you more, I'm like, well, that's a no-brainer. That was easy. And that was the one. It was like this genuine, like, yeah. And I think I know, a business owner for myself, I have to remind people all the time, if you really believe in somebody, support them. Don't assume that they have everything they need and they're fully supported, because it's not true.
Yeah.
We all need.
I'm very far from having everything I need.
Right.
But I'm doing it,
You're doing it anyway. That's kind of how I am. I'm writing the next book and doing the next show, even when I'm like, I don't know what's going on. We're just going. We're doing it on faith. So anyway, everybody, make sure that you check out all of Adam's links in the show notes. And I know that you are fulfilled as I am after listening to the show. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Dianne.
And remember, everybody, keep your face to the sun so the shadows fall behind you, because you're a rock star. You're here on purpose with a mighty purpose. So go out there and let your light shine. And do what Adam says. Remember the phrase, it's better late than never. And until the next episode of Someone Gets Me, this is Dianne and Adam saying, be well. Thank you for listening. I trust you gained some valuable inspiration and information. Please join me and other visionaries in the Someone Gets Me Facebook group. Or for more information on my services and additional episodes, visit someonegetsme.com. Again, thanks for listening.